Hey, folks, here with Josh Rogers on the Watts Up Renewables virtually. And Josh, we've been talking for quite some time, so I'm glad we finally found the right time to connect and have you on the podcast. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, it's been a while in the works and really looking forward to having the conversation and appreciate all that you're doing to spread the comms and communication throughout the industry. So good job. Looking forward
Yeah,
to it.
thank you. Yep, we got to keep sharing the good word, right? And
That's right.
boy, with that, you've been in this game for quite a while. Is it? Do you got 2 decades?
Well, I mean, if I include my Navy time, yeah, definitely over 2 decades worth of experience in energy operations and maintenance. And yeah, it's been a while. A lot of different companies. Sure, you're curious about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, what was your first start into renewables?
Yeah, so getting out of the military, I was a nuclear operator and instructor. And after 9 years in the military, I tried to figure out what I wanted to do. And I knew I didn't necessarily want to go into the nuclear industry. And so I started to look for jobs. And I was a mechanic in the Navy. So I didn't actually have an electrical background. Spent a lot of time researching, finishing up my degree. And one of the first companies I interviewed for was a company called Power One. And it was actually my mother in law that introduced me to them. She worked at Aero Electronics at the time. And so I interviewed with them. It was actually for a field commissioning position. And mid interview, the director was like, "Hey, we don't have any training. Would you like to help us develop training?" So I asked folks, is that normal for job positions to change mid-interview? And it wasn't normal. So I took that as they saw something in me. So I joined Power One, worked with a great guy with lots of residential experience, and we built a training program for solar inverter training, commissioning, operations, and maintenance for residential, commercial utility. And yeah, so that's how I kind of broke into the industry. And it was a little awkward going to conferences telling people this is how you do stuff. And I've been in the industry for 3 months. So that was a little bit of a steep hill to climb.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. And I love that you just jumped into the unknown and
That's
embraced
right.
the new challenges. So, all right, what did the first three to 6 months look like in that job?
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 to 6 months, really I had to learn the technology. And so I spent a lot of time with a coworker that, like I said, he had about a decade of residential experience, and a manager that had years of experience as an electrical contractor and really learned the NEC, or the National Electric Code. Um, from there, spent time on several rooftops, learning how rooftop solar was installed, some of the pitfalls, challenges there. Um, but the other piece of it is I actually worked as a part of our call center, or our call team. So I didn't start out as a trainer. I actually, as we were building our training content, we actually received calls from the field, technicians trying to install inverters, having issues. And so I started to learn what folks were having issues with as they were in the field trying to get the equipment installed and online, or they were out troubleshooting a downed inverter. So kind of got that technical experience hearing from technicians, the way that they talked, the issues that they were having, and started to focus our training on solving those problems, not building a training program that was, an institutional program, but more of, here's the issues we're seeing, here's how you fix them, and just give people what they want to know.
Wow. So, uh, right into your first job, the scope changes mid interview. Then it sounded like two different jobs once you got started. I think what I love about this is I've been saying this my whole career. Just get started somewhere and you'll be amazed at the other opportunities and job types that you'll find. And you did this in 6 months or less, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tough part is when folks hear that, they think that's typical, right? Obviously, everybody comes with different backgrounds. 9 years in the military, as a nuclear operator instructor, having a mechanical and electrical background helped accelerate that, right? I already knew what, common terms were. I already knew about pumps and motors and breakers, fuses. And so, really it was getting to know the industry terminology and how the industry talked, right? Or spoke. And for me, it was okay, now I'm going to have to go start to communicate this to other people. And so really trying to figure out what that mechanism was, right? Because there's manuals, there's engineers, and then there's technicians. And unfortunately, all three of those things don't speak the same language. So I always kind of teased and said that I was kind of like an interpreter or a translator, where I kind of bridged that gap between a manual to technician or an engineer to a technician and vice versa.
Yeah, that's impressive. And you're right. You did have a nice background to hit the ground running. All right. Well, how long were you there? And then what happened after that?
Yeah, so I was there almost 2 years, spent a lot of time on the road, conferences, trade shows. I, I mean, companies like Solar City at the time, every single warehouse in California. We interacted with crews, installers all over the place. And one company I interacted with was First Solar, and they actually brought me in house to work on their technician training. So, Power One got acquired by ABB. About I was coming up right on 2 years with Power One slash ABB when I left to go to First Solar.
Okay.
Yep.
What were you doing at First Solar? First Solar then.
Yeah, so First Solar, it was really focused on building the technician training program. So essentially, First Solar was, and I would say still is, one of the gold standards when it comes to operations and maintenance for solar facilities. And so during the time that I was there, we went from 1 gigawatt to 5 gigawatts under operation. And that was really rare. I mean, now, that might be a little bit more common for teams to scale. But, back in 2014, 2015, that was really unheard of. So we spent a lot of time, and the way we changed our training program was, instead of it being 2 weeks in the corporate office, we essentially revamped the training to be a couple of weeks in the corporate office, or sorry, a couple of days in the corporate office. And then myself and other trainers actually out on the site with technicians going through work orders, how to actually perform the work, do things like DC health checks, actually performing the job, right? Because we could PowerPoint folks to death all day long. But at the end of the day, for them to really be effective and safe at what they do, it was really spend time in the field, understand their job, and then they would be deployed to whatever site they were hired for.
Starting to see a trend, Josh. Starting to see a trend. How long were you there?
So I was there about a year. And with training, we also developed our maintenance procedures and spent a lot of time working with the control room, uh, performance engineers, performance engineering, and several other parts of the organization. But kind of at that point, I had a mentor, and he's like, "Hey, you did training your last several years in the Navy. You've started to do training uh, pretty much to start your career. You're going to be stuck in training forever." And so I don't know if I just got a little nervous with him saying that, but I started to say, hey, I want to get into management and understand the business side of things. And
Mhm.
so I spoke with Solar leadership and said, hey, I'm looking to grow and be a manager. At that time, I didn't want to go manage a site out in the middle of the desert. A family, nice home in Phoenix, didn't necessarily want to move to the middle of nowhere. So at that time, I branched out and actually went back into the residential and small commercial market with a couple of companies, Sun Edison, and then Next Phase Solar. So the Sun Edison story, if you haven't heard of the market darlings and then their great fall,
No.
um, I definitely have some stories, but some of those I definitely wouldn't share online. But we could
No.
definitely catch up and talk about what happened there. So
All right. All right. Offline stories later. All right.
that's
What
right.
happened next? And what year are we at? I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, so Power One and ABB, I was there 2013, 2014. First Solar 2015. And so really I'm moving into 2016, spent a little bit of time in residential, got really messy, oversaw a ton of residential installations throughout the Southwest with partner companies. I spent time with technicians growing them from residential service to commercial service. So one of the cool stories there was a couple of residential techs in Phoenix. We actually went out and did service in Oregon on a bunch of Walmarts, and we actually won an O&M contract in Hawaii. So those guys got to take their wives and families to Hawaii for a week and do a bunch of PMs for a mall in Maui. So that was pretty cool. Or sorry, Honolulu. So that was pretty cool. But I really wanted to get back to utility scale, and that was really when I ended up going to Duke.
Okay.
So
And
2016, I went to Duke Energy.
how long were you there, and what were you doing at Duke?
Yeah, so funny story. I thought the Duke position for Phoenix or the Southwest was actually a fake position. There's actually a lot of fake job postings out there. So I did
Oh,
some research, and folks that know me, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Years ago, I reached out to a person with the title and a title that had the same title as that job that was posted for Duke Energy. And I said, "Hey, is this a legit job posting?" They're like, "Yeah, you should apply." um, so that was actually a regional solar operations manager. So I oversaw about 10 or 12 sites in the desert Southwest that were Duke operations, but we essentially sold our power to power companies in the Southwest.
okay. All right.
Yep,
So I bet it felt good to get back to utility. And
100%.
yeah, I can't just walk past this. What do you mean fake job postings? I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, look it up. There's a lot of companies that will um, post for jobs that don't actually exist. So when you see, let's say a company's got 500 job openings, doesn't necessarily mean they have 500 positions. Sometimes companies are fishing for what talent is in the area, what sort of candidates they could get, what the market's like. So not every posting that you see for a job actually has a job behind it, which is kind of frustrating for job seekers.
And why do they do it? Do you say they're trying to grab some market intelligence about what kind of candidates are in the area or field?
Correct. Yeah. A lot of it's just market research for their teams.
And the why do they want to know if they're not actually hiring?
If they were actually considering moving or building a facility in that area, they want to know like what the, existing marketplace is for, either a certain job function or technician type, right? So sometimes there'll be technician postings or manager postings just because they're thinking about moving into that market, not necessarily because they have that position actually available at the time. And it's not just clean
Ah,
energy. It's not just clean energy. That's across all industries.
I gotcha. So if you're going to do a physical move, and one of the telltale signs might be a whole lot of postings, uh, geographically specific by one company.
Yeah. I'm not
I
sure
got
if there's any sort of specific trigger for it, but I just know that, that was something that I thought was interesting. And so when I saw Duke Energy, a regulated utility, had a position in, Phoenix or California, I was like, this even real? And I knew of Duke, I just didn't know that they did anything out where I lived. So
got it. All right. Thanks for sharing. That's new one to me, but I get it. I get it. I don't like it, but I understand. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Altair Energy Services, and their highly trained, expert technical staff, leveraging decades of renewable power management experience into customized solutions for everyone to meet their energy goals and contribute to a better future for all. Altair's team of hardworking, respected experts are providing full scope, turnkey repairs, planned and unplanned maintenance, system upgrades, fully autonomous technical crews, supplemental staffing, and customized dynamic scheduling to fit your power production needs. Contact Altair at info@altairEnergyServices.com and learn more about their wide range of capabilities across multiple power technologies and platforms. So, all right, what did you like about utility solar in the Southwest?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's just getting back to, my roots, and that's really operations, maintenance, and interacting with the field teams. So having a team, having assets, focusing on the performance, managing the budgets, um, really building a team, seeing what we could do as far as increasing the performance, driving costs down. Like, I think a lot of folks find that to be a fun challenge, and that's something that was always exciting to wake up and if we had a challenge or an issue or something, it's like, okay, let's figure out how to tackle this and solve it. And I think that's why a lot of field teams really enjoy their jobs is being able to fix things, see the direct result of their actions and how that results in the company growing or different pieces of just feeling that success, right?
Mm-hmm.
Success of fixing things.
Right. I love that binary success is one of my favorite parts about what I've ever done. It's running, it's not running. Right. I love
That's
that.
right.
And then it comes with such a deep variety of challenges and new things to learn and hurdles to overcome, expertise to expand on yourself when you're tasked with going to fix it. So I resonate with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it a little bit earlier is, I mean, I think part of just my human nature and part of my personality, like I like to feel uncomfortable and have a challenge. So when things get comfortable, it's kind of like, okay, this is either boring or it's time for a new challenge. And so I do like sites that are underperforming, growing teams, having that challenge in front of me because I mean, I think that's what really, you know, creates that excitement each day, right? Is let's go to work, let's get this done versus I'm just kind of going through the motions and having a job. No, I'm producing results each day. So,
Yep. I love it as well. I mean, still in that space. Service work is still my passion. All right. What happened after Duke?
well, within Duke,
Oh,
I was there for about a year and a half, and then they actually brought me to Charlotte. So that's how I ended up moving from Phoenix to Charlotte. Is they brought
okay.
me over to Charlotte to oversee all of their commercial solar operations. So I oversaw over 60 sites, 13 different states, had a whole operating team, and yeah, I mean that was honestly one of the best experiences, one of the best teams. It was very hard to leave Duke. It was a great company to work for. And the team was just phenomenal people. Everywhere I've been very fortunate to work around very solid, hardworking, intelligent, just great people that I've learned from everywhere I've gone. But yeah, I spent about 5 years at Duke. And honestly, I think COVID did it in, right? So I was at Duke when COVID happened. Essentially, we had the 2021 storm in Texas. So there was a lot of stuff that happened in the winter storm of Texas. I actually ended up flying from Charlotte out to be boots on the ground as Duke leadership um, into Dallas. So I actually flew into Dallas, no rental cars, no Ubers, no anything because the whole city was shut down. And my ops manager had to drive like 2 hours to pick me up from the airport so we could get to the sites and keep the solar sites running through that winter storm and couldn't check into a hotel. Nothing was available. So had a lot of good time with the team out in Texas, collecting firewood for their families, battling frozen water bottles to drink some water. But I think a recruiter caught me at the right moment. And a little bit after that winter storm, I got approached by a recruiter about going to Fluence on the battery storage side of things. And once again, it goes back to wanting that challenge. I actually got pretty frustrated at Duke. We'd have 200 megawatt sites that were curtailed, right? So they were told to be offline during the peak of the day. They could be generating a ton of energy. And we were told, hey, there's nowhere on the grid for it to go. And that, it was like, man, we were losing money. The grid was losing energy production. And so being able to learn batteries, I looked at that as like a phenomenal opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to continue to grow my knowledge base. Went to Fluence, oversaw their global training. So essentially started to develop their training programs for installation, commissioning, and the operations and maintenance of their battery systems. So that was another great opportunity, very fast moving company. But yeah,
That's
it was
fantastic.
great to be part of them.
I love that. You took your own curiosity and passion and parlayed it into the next career, move and the next thing to go learn and study in our industry. Boy, I bet there's more stories out there like that, but I don't know if I've heard too many yet. I love it.
Well, I know there's quite a few, and I think not only curiosity, but just what is that next step, right? The technology's moving so fast. I used to joke at Duke Energy. I used to joke with the new wind technicians. I would joke with them and say, hey, at some point you're going to report to me on the solar side of things. And I wasn't doing that as like an, ego play. It was eventually they're going to get sick of climbing, and solar's a natural progression.
Hmm.
Solar technicians have a natural progression to battery storage. So there's just this natural progression through the industry where I don't know if it's curiosity or just the role availability and the opportunities, but I see a natural flow of, not just leaders like myself, but whether it's a field role, engineering roles, operator roles, there's a lot of folks that kind of have that flow path through clean energy.
Okay. No, I follow that. I follow that, especially as we age and pieces like that. But you said you're at a site that's getting curtailed. There's nowhere to put this power. And then to me, I heard, well, why don't we have a battery? We could fill batteries.
That's
So
right.
I go into batteries. I liked that story. That was unique. That was good. All right. How long were you at Fluence?
So just under 2 years, just under two
Okay.
years.
All right.
So yeah, at that time I had two or three other battery companies that reached out and said, we want you to do what you're doing at Fluence, but for us. And one of them, it was actually a CEO, reached out on LinkedIn and he's like, hey, I want you to do what you're doing at Fluence, but for us. And at that point, I was like, well, I can't just keep doing rinse and repeat and the same thing for individual companies. So that's really where ACP, or American Clean Power Association, was the next fit, because really the largest trade association for utility scale clean energy, and really setting that industry standard collaboration regardless of your logo was something that I thought was really important for the industry. And I still do. I mean, I think the collaboration, regardless of what company you work for, is incredibly important. And so, that was, you know, essentially that next step for me was, how do I do this across, not just solar and battery storage, but that was really um, an entry into the wind side and see what the wind was dealing with as far as performance issues and culture issues and safety issues. So gave me another uh, different perspective than my solar and battery storage background, because the American Clean Power Association used to be AWEA, or the American Wind Energy Association. So they have a lot of wind heavy members.
Right, right. All right. So you were there a few years then, Clean Power.
Yeah, so I just exited there after almost 3 years. I was coming up right on my 3 year anniversary with ACP. And a lot of
Well,
it was
how
just,
how was it
oh,
tell me more about what you were doing at ACP. So, standardization, safety, training, workforce development. This was the area, right? But what was the initiative, and tell me about that.
Yeah, so what a lot of folks don't know, especially on the operations side, is American Clean Power, or ACP, does a lot of stuff in DC or state legislatures on policy and pushing the industry forward, right? So they're influential in trying to get clean energy developed. So a lot of developers and folks that are kind of on the front end of projects are very familiar with American Clean Power. Where ACP doesn't have the deepest reach is on the operations side, right? I had technicians and folks reach out to me like, hey, are you hiring techs? Like, we don't even operate sites. Like, no, I don't have techs. So for me, I oversaw a number of committees where we brought together industry leaders or subject matter experts to either develop best practices, talk about issues, share lessons learned. So I had a number of committees, things like construction safety, electrical safety. We had a wind performance group that had blades, generators, foundations. On the solar side, we had a solar performance group and a battery storage performance group. And then we had a workforce training group. So to go back to your question, it really was driving what is that industry standard? So if we think of training, everybody's doing their own thing. So what we did is we convened about 30 companies. It started on the wind side and we said, okay, what are you doing for training? And what does that standardization look like? For those of you that are familiar with GWO or the Global Wind Organization, they were part of that conversation and that development of those wind training guidelines to essentially say this is essentially what folks should train on for wind technicians. And then we replicated that on solar and battery storage. And that was really the first like area where you had some sort of linear alignment between a wind technician, a solar technician, and battery storage technician. And
Okay.
so developing those industry standards allowed for folks to understand like what should we be training on. And we had a number of companies, both big and small, that hey, these guidelines really helped round out our training programs. Or when they were looking for training providers, they could then go into those conversations and say, hey, do you have this? Or do you have this as part of your program? Another piece of it was a good example. There's some publications that we did. One that really sticks out. I know you're on the wind side of things. We had an update for recommended practice on wind blades maintenance and repair. And so that brought together a ton of folks who were owner operators, repair companies, and folks who put a lot of time and effort into a document that said, okay, here's how you take care of blades, here's types of blade failures, and here's how we should go about fixing or repairing these blades. Because once again, there's no real, you know, hard and fast standard today that requires certain things. So those types of recommended practice allow folks to go into conversations and say, okay, if you repair blades, are you doing it like this? Or how are you classifying blade failures? Are we all classifying them differently? It's tough then to benchmark if we all have different classifications. So being able to have similar terminology, similar classifications, similar approaches to repairs allows for, you know, not only companies to hold service providers accountable, but it actually provides a mechanism to say, okay, this is a recommended practice. Are you doing this? If you're not, maybe you're doing something above and beyond it. And is that worth getting in a new revision of that recommended practice?
That's quite the collaboration you put together then. And that's quite but I'm also into solar and battery. Don't let the years of
That's
wind
right.
fool you. Yeah. Uh,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's quite the collaboration. So you guys, during your time at Clean Power, were able to um, publish these recommended standards in each of these areas. Is that right?
That's right. So yeah, on American Clean Power's website, there's a number of documents, whether they're playbooks, whether they're guidelines, or whether they're standards or ANSI standards. So ANSI is American National Standards Institute. So essentially, there's a process, right, to have an actual published standard. But all of those documents are available on American Clean Power's website. And really, it's for the betterment of the industry. So when we think of that collaboration, a lot of these subject matter experts, it's not like ACP or anybody was paying folks for this effort. It was they're putting in their time, they're collaborating, they're sharing documents, they're sharing pictures, they're sharing data to say, okay, this is something that will better the industry or make the industry as a whole better. And so I think that collaboration sometimes is tough because in the room, you've got competitors that are saying, okay, maybe we don't want to share this because we feel like it's our secret sauce. And so, that was kind of the biggest, uh, I guess, barrier outside of just the time commitment, right? Because
Mm.
developing those standards, reviewing documents, gathering information, providing input or feedback, like it's all time consuming. And I think you and anybody in the industry knows this, like true subject matter experts and the folks who have been around a little while, their time is very precious and very limited on a daily basis. So it was always a challenge to get that collaboration.
Okay. So challenge on time for collaboration, challenge on some folks wanting to hold back, thinking it was their secret sauce. I always like to counter to say that, well, we say if you're mature enough, you're not scared to share anything. Right. And it
That's
shows
right.
our maturity when we're that courageous and then really helps other people. So I like to just keep challenging everyone. But what's one of the biggest things that you learned out of that experience?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I learned out of that experience and really kind of drove me to where I'm at today is just the need for information, right? And the need for folks to collaborate and share their experiences. So whether you're I keep mentioning SMEs or subject matter experts, whether you're a true subject matter expert, an engineer, a seasoned technician, or even a brand new technician, at the end of it, right? We've got a lot of information that like each of us have learned, and we call it tribal knowledge, and it stays in our head and we think it's our secret and something that's incredibly valuable, and it is. But holding on to it makes it less valuable because then it's only available to us. So part of, my reason for leaving ACP and what I'm doing now is like there's a ton of things that, I learned years ago at First Solar or issues that we tackled at Duke Energy or things that I hear these committees talk about that it's like, why don't more people know about this? And, coming on podcasts like this, getting that word out to say, okay, let's share more of this information. And for technicians that think holding on to it is the secret, actually, once you start sharing it, you also start learning more, you get to grow. And as you're teaching other people, that's one of the best growth mechanisms for individuals is teaching other people what you do. Like, and if you just want to, uh, let's take an example. We had a technician that was really good at one type of solar inverter. And I sat down with him and I said, that's really great that you're good at this one type of inverter, but they're no longer making inverters. And those inverters are only at this site. So your like job, career path, everything is so limited if you only stay right there. But if you train a new technician who's junior to work on those inverters, now I can free you up and you can go work on substations or transformers or other inverters. And that light bulb, when it clicked, it was like, oh, wait, I can actually grow my career faster by sharing, letting go of this, and going and doing something else. And I think that's really where I'm at today is, kind of inspiring folks to share their information grow themselves. And, in turn, that will help grow the industry. And I think, that's where I haven't been shy with a lot of information or things over the years, but I also know that sometimes I feel like I'm on a recording, right? My wife, she'll hear me on conference calls and it's like, you say the same thing a lot. And it's like, well, you're right, I do. Why don't I just record some of this, right? So part of it is getting out of that repetitive nature so you can get into those next levels of conversations as well. And I think that's tough for folks that kind of feel like they've gotten really good at something, is like how to get them to understand like letting go of that thing that they're really good at will actually make them even better. But it's
Mm.
tough in the moment for a lot of folks to conceptualize that and not think that it's a threat to their career.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're gonna make sure we get some reels of you sharing that repetitive thing, so you can just send them your 90
There you
second
go.
here. Listen to this. I gotta go. All
There you
right.
go.
All right. I love the passion behind that and the commitment to just telling that story and sharing over and over again what people need to hear. All right. Well, then that brings us to now, and you got a new brand there on your hat. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, after years of talking to a lot of technicians, a lot of ops managers, a lot of folks in the industry, like I said, I kept hearing the same things, whether it was from a safety front, whether it was from a collaboration front, a technical training front, is how do we get more information to more people? And so, really, it's how do I facilitate that, right? I have a lot of connections, I have a lot of experience, but I've also not been in the field for years. The part of it is I miss being in the field. I miss being with the folks doing the work, and getting back to kind of my roots is spending time with those teams, regardless of their logo. Progressing the industry forward is my passion. And for the workforce, it's how do I give them tools, right? So every technician, every person, right? We all learn in different ways. And over the years, it's like, okay, what sort of mechanisms can I create or tools can I create that can facilitate that learning? And part of the reason for the brand and why I'm going out on my own is I see a lot of companies that do the same thing, right? And what I mean by that is they want to have their compliance met, they want to have their safety and their training as check boxes. And at the end of the day, that's great to have your liability and everything checked off, but that's not really focused on the outcome. And the outcome that I'm obsessed with is a competent, truly competent worker is a safe worker, is an effective worker. And that person doesn't necessarily have to have a certain logo to be a good worker.
Mm.
Um, and if we can just train folks on how the process of work gets done, and that's not just in clean energy, but how you approach work in general from a methodical standpoint is important. And once you start doing that, right, continuous learning is the piece that really is the biggest lever to me. So my wife's a personal trainer, my father-in-law is a personal trainer, and part of it is I looked at the industry and I said, okay, why do we do all these one-time trainings and think that we're done? Oh, I got this certification, I'm done. I did this, I'm done. If you're in fitness or working out or trying to stay fit, like that discipline is day in and day out, 3 days a week, 5 days a week. Why are we not training technicians like that, right? Even if it's just 30 minutes a day, let's do a quick hit of a video, a quick hit of a document, a quick hit of a hands on session, a quick hit of a new technology, right? So for me, it's how do we take kind of that fitness mindset and bring it to how we approach workforce training, because the world's changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Access to content is changing. And one thing that I've seen, you know, not just on LinkedIn, but a number of other places is with AI. it's not just that there's too much information now, but there's a lot of inaccurate or confusing information, right? So if you're a new technician or a new person trying to learn in this industry, before it was confusing, now it's even more confusing. So how do I help folks just simplify that? Here's what you need to know. Let's not overcomplicate it, but really let's make you safe, good at your jobs. And sure, you want to go get those certifications, you want to do the hands-on training, like all that stuff has huge importance. I'm not replacing any of that. What I'm doing is enabling all the mechanisms that help with that continuous growth, right? And whether you're trying to get a certification or you got one, you should be learning that next week. You should be developing your skills that next week. And so having resources to do that aren't boring, that aren't corporate training, that aren't tracked, right? I don't want everybody to track my workouts and what I'm doing. Everybody's training is tracked. It's paid for by the company. It's monitored. It's once again, it kind of is that checkbox instead of, hey, I want to develop my skills. How do I go about doing that as an individual, regardless of what company I work for?
Wow. I loved the analogy over to personal fitness because once you stop, well, that's when you're done. That's when you're done. You won't make any more progress. You have
That's
to
right.
continually train. What a great analogy. And people, yeah, think about their personal health. That's a great analogy. Okay. So that repetitive, hey, this is not a once a year thing. This is a lifestyle, right? Training is a lifestyle. You have to just make it part of who you are and never quit. How does Truckroll give us that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is identifying resources that I've used over the years, right? So I'm not trying to reinvent content that exists, right? So if there's videos or resources that I've leaned on in my career to help build my knowledge and my skills, I'll put them in one place so that folks can understand, like, hey, this helped me, it might help you. And once again, we all learn different ways. So, a couple of different routes is developing kind of those fitness programs, right? Some folks need a program to follow and they need some accountability. It's just like in fitness, some folks need that extra coach. So for me, if I can develop certain mini programs, hey, safety, environmental, technical, deeper technical, troubleshooting, leadership, if there's these little sprints or these several week workouts that are smaller, shorter, consumable, I'm hoping that really, helps folks develop their own careers. Um, the other piece of it is having different methods of resources, right? So whether it's short form videos, long form videos, programs, existing content, one pagers, reference documents, right? Everybody learns in such a different way that, there's technicians that still love to print things out, right?
Mm,
They want a piece of paper and they want to hold on to it. And then there's technicians that are like, if it's not on an app, I'm not looking at it,
yeah.
right? So I'm trying to figure out like what is that balance between that to where regardless of how you learn, is there something for you and for you to get out of it? And for the training programs out there, I mean, once again, I'm not building a facility and doing hands-on training. So the other piece of it is partnering and amplifying companies doing great stuff and connecting those companies with the right training centers or technicians with the right training programs that, hey, I want something more formal or I want a certification. Okay, let me connect you with what'll really move the needle because there are a lot of technicians who have gotten different certifications and they're like, yeah, that one was a waste of time. Dang it. So helping to prevent some of that. And, as you know, some of the training in the industry is very expensive. And when the
Mm,
company pays for that, that's great. But if you're a 19-year-old, and I talk with several folks that are like, I want to get in this industry. How do I get in it? And if every online training is $600, $1,200, if the in person is $2,500, like They're like, I'll just go be an HVAC tech, or I'll go into some other industry that it's not so steep to get in.
Yeah.
So really making it at an individual level, something that they could potentially afford to learn the language, learn the terminology, and not have to drop $600 on the unknown and not knowing whether that $600 is actually going to land them a job. Um, so that's the other piece of it, is how do I make it, affordable to where companies don't always have to foot the bill and individuals can choose on their own.
Watts Up Renewables is growing, and we're looking for new sponsors to join us. Our show connects leaders, innovators, and field professionals across the renewable industry, and our sponsors are part of that conversation. Some have seen their network expand instantly. Others have grown revenue and brand visibility through the connections they've made right here. If you want your company to reach the people driving the future of clean energy, now's the time to get involved. Contact us at media@whatsuprenewables.com to become a sponsor today. Man, that's cool, and follows right in line with your passion for training and technicians. Are you I feel like you're calling me out though, because I got all the paper in front of me. So clearly I'm a printed out guy.
Hey, hey,
I
you know
fell
what?
right into that trap. All right, good.
So folks that know me, or have seen me, like, I spend a lot of time still with handwritten notes, and you won't be able to read any of my handwritten notes, but it helps me remember, right? So pen and paper is still very important, and so that's why I don't necessarily think there's one solution that'll be a silver bullet for everyone or every company or every situation. And so once again, I'm trying to build those resources to be something that anybody, right? Hey, you want to print something out? Go ahead, Adam, print it out.
Yeah, that's me. So can I find Truckroll on? Are you live? Can I
I
find
I
you?
am live.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have to send you the link, and if you can't find it, let me know. But
Is it
yeah, it is live. So
app, website? What do we got?
so both. It's truckroll.tech is the website.
Okay,
And
Truckroll.
then it's got some QR codes to get to the
Man, you've been working on this a while then.
quite a
That
bit for a long time. Like I said, I've tested a lot of different branding, a lot of different communications, had a lot of technicians, probably 50, 60, 70 technicians over the years, just trying to understand what they find valuable, what they would use. Um, and once again, it was looking at the market and saying, okay, how can I have the biggest impact
mm-hmm.
that not only aligns with my passion, but once again, I think everywhere I've gone, I've genuinely loved my job. I felt like it was my dream job, and I would say that this one's the same thing. Is I'm really just doing what I love to do. And, the number of hours that I put into that has been quite a bit. I'm not going to lie, but a
Yeah.
lot of it is just because I love the stuff. So it's not like it's work and miserable for me. I genuinely enjoy building stuff and helping people and just connecting folks on how do we find solutions? How do we move the industry forward?
Okay. I'm looking at this while we're talking. I've never seen it before, so I had to. I
I,
mean,
I've been a little secretive with it. Let's just say that.
why is that?
Well, one, I think just my personality, I operate a little bit more in the shadows with a lot. I mean, I know most folks know me from LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn and very social in that way. But uh, day to day, I like to operate in very small groups. A lot of times, just head down, headphones in, and working, getting things done. And that's kind of my mode of operation. And the other thing is I am not and never have been a great salesperson. So for me to go out and try to sell stuff, I put it out there, and if it resonates with you, that's great. If not, let me know what would, and I can work on that next. But It's just one of those things that I think for me, I would just say that I'm a little bit passive in that way, and like to do things one on one. So this podcast is me jumping outside of my comfort zone once again, a little bit more public than I normally am outside of a LinkedIn post. So appreciate coordinating this, and I know it's been a long time in the works.
Oh, you're doing great, man. This is awesome. All right. Well, I love that you're announcing it here. So, truckroll.tech. I'm looking through this right now. And I'm an old tech, so I clicked right on your gear to see what kind of swag you got, and it looks pretty good. I also checked out the pricing plans. They seem very competitive and easy, low barrier to entry. This looks great. I'm going to keep looking at some of the content, but getting to know you more, I'm sure that it's going to be filled with safety, technical, and compliance pieces of information that can help a lot of folks. Man,
Yeah, I
this
mean, a
is
lot of it.
go ahead.
Uh, no, I was going to say right now, I mean, I'm still building and developing a lot of it, still kind of finalizing some of the video content. Once again, that's an uncomfortable zone for me. So I'm working on that. And because of my personality, I don't want to launch stuff to the market and have it completely flop. So I am hypercritical of myself. And so probably the hardest person on anyone is themselves. And I'm that same way, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's as you look through it, I'd love to give you and other folks, codes to check it out, try it for free, provide feedback, right? Once again, I'm looking at this as I'm still in a launch phase. So if there's stuff that you're seeing you don't like, you do like reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I've had the same phone number since I was like 16. I'm active on LinkedIn. So if you do have any feedback, um, I have very thick skin. I was Navy, I was a mechanic in the Navy, so don't feel like I'm gonna take anything to heart and go cry in a corner over it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know if there's a guy on my team that I think would be great to take a look and give you some feedback. I don't think I'd be the best. Um, but we have managers that work with techs and word techs and things like that. So we can definitely help you get some feedback, and doing a great job advertising it. Looks like you were definitely ready to market before you got here on the podcast. It looks great. Well, tell me about the
Appreciate
logo
that.
though, because I have a couple of things I want to comment on, but I see, where am I on this thing? Well, you know what? I went to mental fitness because, man, I think we need to talk more about that in general. But I see the icons in here, and as I scroll through, it sort of looks like a summation of your primary logo. What's going on there? There's something with symbolism here.
Yeah, I mean, one, the symbolism is I'm a mechanic at heart, so the gear it resonates with me from my mechanic days. The lightning bolt's obviously the electrical side, and then the plus signs are just that positive attitude that I think I genuinely bring to conversations, and I hope people that work in this industry are bringing positive energy, regardless of how tough or challenging the day is, or the market is, or what their day looks like. So I think positive energy is important. Um, and then some of the, you mentioned the mental fitness. So a lot of those icons are tied to things like brakes or things that might be, related to cars. So I also do a lot with electric vehicles and electrical vehicle charging. So
Oh,
that's something that, spending time in utility scale clean energy, I haven't spent as much time uh, promoting or doing things on the EV side that I would like to. So this brand is not just utility scale clean energy, but once again, more to come in the future. But I've had EVs since 2018. Have educated a lot of folks on electrical vehicles, charging networks, maintenance for those, and so more to come on that as well. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of where the logo came from, and I'm sure you recognize the term truck roll. I mean, it's one of the most common terms. Anytime a technician's roll into a site, maintenance, corrective maintenance, it doesn't matter. The truck roll, right? Whether they're in a van, a car, or a truck, it's a truck roll.
Fair enough. I like
So,
that. And you have some free content on here. So before I hit that, I love that you called it mental fitness and not mental health. Mental fitness, it goes back to, I think, where you're on that passion. You have to continually train, right? You have to continually train. And the same is for your mental, not just your physical aspect of your body, but the mental aspect of your body. Emotional comes into play, and it is fitness, and you can get stronger and you can get weaker, right? If you're
oh,
not
and I mean,
training.
yeah, and I mean, I think the important thing is you're going to have good days and bad days, regardless of what social media shows, right? So, folks might look at social media and be like, "Oh man, this person's career is amazing. They're doing amazing." But behind the scenes, there's challenges that we all go through from a mental and emotional state, and the industry is challenging. It's very physical, physically demanding, but it's also emotionally demanding. You're out there as a technician or a site operations manager. You want to fix stuff. You want to have sites online. And so when equipment fails or systems aren't performing or you can't get equipment back online, it hurts your confidence. Then you go
Yeah.
home and you got financial issues or issues with your family. So balancing that is something we all have to work on, regardless of your title, regardless of your status, and regardless of your social media posts and how amazing we all are on social media.
Yeah. And the reverse is true, right? If you have problems at home or off, outside of work, male boy, they can follow you to work and put you at risk of being injured. Yeah. You got to
100%.
stay mentally fit. Oh, man. All right. Very cool. Well, congratulations on Truckroll and rolling it out to the industry and announcing it here on the podcast. That's very exciting. And yeah, we'd love to help. I think I know just the guy that also has a similar passion that, could give you some feedback on thoughts too. Very
Yeah, and
cool. That's exciting.
I mean, I just wanted to, say thank you for what you've done, right? I mean, I don't necessarily have all the background, and maybe it'd be worthwhile for you to share why you started the podcast, but at the end of it, I was looking at, what podcasts or what existed out there that was targeted towards technicians, right? There's a lot of podcasts that are focused on policy, development, different aspects of the industry. But I think, out of all the ones that I watched and reviewed, like yours was the one bringing on those frontline workers, right? And showing what the workers, were feeling, showing what the workers wanted to see or the challenges that they went through. And so that's why it only made sense for me to, work with you and get this set up, is because, once again, you've sought out the same audience that I have. And I think, that's really one of the most important parts, if not the most important part of our industry, is the people that are boots on the ground, putting their lives on the line for this energy industry every single day.
Well, we can't have anything in this life without folks going to work and making it happen. I don't care if you're making a product, offering a service, designing and R&Ding the next cool invention out there, but the folks and the people that support it, this is the real this is what's really getting exercised. Just folks like us. And, part of my passion is, supporting Josh. Well, folks like you and Truckroll to help get the word out. So this alignment is one of the passion pieces behind the podcast. It's really hard, right, to network, to get your voice out there, to get your brand out there, to get people to walk past your booth, or whatever it is. It's difficult, and I just saw that we could do better in the digital space when it came to marketing, networking, branding, and helping each other, because we're all in it. And then, the fact that we tell the personal stories, well, to me, that's what's really happening behind any company. You might have somebody go see Truckroll and maybe they see an advertisement here on one of our social medias on, from What's Up. But if they can go and learn about the founder and the person behind it and the passion and the why it's there is likely what, an extra reason on why they might want to use it, right? You're not just an app developer, right? Just trying to
That's
gather
right.
and post content, right? Which some app developers are out there just gathering and posting content. It's an entire industry today. That's not who
100%.
you are, right? That's not who Truckroll is. So we get to make this real and easily show people, point them in the right place and go, here, just take a look.
Well, with all of, I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't seen all of your videos or shorts or everything that you've posted. Let me flip a question back to you, if that's all right.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
What would you say, all the folks that you've talked to? I mean, are there any trends or things that are really sticking out to you that, you know, you see as either the greatest opportunity in the industry or the greatest gap in the industry?
What have I seen as the greatest opportunity in the industry or gap in the industry? Opportunity would be, to for the people of this country, of this planet, rather, to continue to provide what society and the citizens are demanding, and that is a lot more power, right? And in a way that we can be confident is going to be there and scale with us as the citizens are requesting it. So for our electric cars and everything else that we want as citizens of the planet, society says, "Give me power." We need to provide it. We need to do it together in a safe, efficient way, right? And it needs to add in a good level of diversity on those power types so that we're not reliant on a single one. I'm not a hater of any power type. I'm a big proponent of diversity and forward progress with technology. That's the other piece. Like some technologies are so old, but they just seem so reliable. Nobody wants to go and change it, right? But just because you got the horse and it brings you to town didn't mean that we shouldn't go invent a car, right? Not just a faster horse or, a healthier horse. So I do look forward to the opportunity as more technology advancements, in my opinion, when it comes to providing electrical power to the planet. The biggest gap would be the political struggle on which is going to be the favorite for any 2 year period of time, at least in our country, right? Which I'm most familiar with the political landscape. And it seems to just follow parties. And man, I don't I don't know about that. Is it a party decision? That just seems a little like maybe we could do this a better way. So the biggest gap or challenge in my opinion is that we don't align politically to the demands of our citizens. And diversity, I believe, is the answer.
I mean, definitely well said. I mean, I'm definitely not a solar versus the world or clean energy versus the world
Yeah.
person. I am an advocate for the industry, but I'm also understanding that grid reliability relies on a number of different sources. And yeah, some of the messaging sometimes from clean energy makes it a little off putting. And I think, the reverse can be said about the fossil industry. So, energy is energy. And I think, you're exactly right. I think if we just focus on that, more folks want more energy, and how do we deliver that energy safe and reliably, we're all on the same page more than we think we are.
Right. We could really simplify this. I still need oil every day in my life. That's
That's
right.
right.
Yeah. I didn't get here today without it. So, um, one way or another. Yeah. Not hating on anybody, just really sick of it being a political issue. If I asked anything of our government, it would be don't make it a partisan type of issue, but rather just align common sense, diversification, growth, and challenge technology to grow. If I were to ask anything of our tax dollars, put some competition out there to find new technology.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. Good question, man.
Well, I know
Yeah.
you're always firing off, your list of questions for folks. Sometimes it's good for you to be on the hot seat too.
I appreciate it. That's a good one. I
There
don't
you
get
go.
too many of those. Right on. Well, uh, Josh, this has been good, man. I loved hearing your story, and I thought it was really cool how, from the Navy, you found this passion for training, and it followed you through, oh man, residential, commercial, utility. You hit solar, wind, battery, all of these pieces, and then you go to nonprofit organization, and it's more compliance, regulatory supportive, right at Clean Power, and now it's okay. I have this passion. I have all this experience. I know that I want to push it back into where I came from, this technician training that has to happen all the time. You can't ever stop training if you want to be safe and proficient and continue to grow your career. It's a one heck of a cool story, man.
I think you said it probably better than I did. That was a great summation of everything. So I like that recording. I might have to steal that one.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hang tight. I've met a lot of people who said they're never going to be a salesman that became great salesmen. So you
Oh,
never know where you'll end
okay.
up.
All right. So never say never. All right.
Never say never. Some of the best ones out there are the ones that never wanted to do it.
Oh, geez. All right.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Oh, very cool. Well, any final comments or anything else to share?
I mean, at the end of the day, we all want, you know, just safe and reliable energy, but workers that are happy, workers that are safe, workers that enjoy their jobs. So I think we all have a part to play in that, whether we're in corporate offices, like you said, whether we're developing a product, whether we're an engineer, or whether we're in the field as either leaders and or workers. And so, for me, I think just connecting, people with people. And, a lot of times business is business and technology is technology. But, the biggest lever that, continues to not just be a struggle, but be an opportunity for the industry to lean into is the greatness of people. And when you empower them, the amazing things they can do, it's fun to see. And so I think with podcasts like this, with more folks working together, um, you know, sometimes we're all seen as competitors, but there's a lot of work out there to be done, and we all can't tackle it ourselves or with a single company. And so I think we just have to lean into each other's strengths a little bit more. And appreciate you putting on this podcast and allowing for some of those conversations to happen.
Anytime, anytime. I'll look forward to catching up again soon and hearing how Truckroll's doing. And man, you got a passion. You said happy. No, you said safe, happy, successful people working in our industry is the passion. If that's not on your website, update it, man, because that is a passion statement worth continuing to
Okay.
share with the world. So, well, it's good catching up. Thanks for joining the show, and yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Adam.
All
Thank you,
right.
guys.